cut off our career and completely gambled on ourselves and our personal brand. We had no idea what we were going to accomplish. You want to end up like him, do what he says. But if you want to, enjoy life and enjoy your business and have longevity, I'll teach you how to do it. Everything that was out of my control started falling apart. So I went through this kind of hard stage where it was like, what is happening? So I was kind of like, hey, God, like, what do you want from me?
First of all, thanks, Simon, for taking the time to speak with us today. I know Richard connected us. Obviously, we had Richard on the podcast last week. Anyone listening, go check that episode out. It was great, and I'm happy Richard was able to connect us with Simon. First thing we kind of want to ask you, Simon, if you could just explain a little bit about your personal history, I guess. Obviously, you're a crane operator, and you're doing a lot of exciting stuff now with business in that industry. Could you just kind of explain your history a little bit, I guess, how you got up to this point where now you're running a business, you're still operating a little bit, you're doing social media and stuff. Do you want to just explain to our audience a little bit about your backstory, what got you interested in this industry, and kind of paint that picture up to like where you're at right now?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm actually really excited to talk to you guys. It's cool to talk to other young guys like our age and to be like, hey, we have cut off our career and completely gambled on ourselves and our personal brand. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see you guys. It'd be cool to look back in 5 years to see all three of us and like, wow, we had no idea what we were gonna accomplish. So
Exactly.
I'm really excited to keep tabs on you guys and follow you guys. So, first of all, yeah, thanks for having me on. And yeah, so I've lost my accent, but I was actually born in Northern Ireland back in
Okay.
like 1990. So my granddad had a crane company over there. So I'm third generation crane operator. So he had just passed away before I was born. So my dad and his brother took over the family business. That wasn't the greatest partnership. My uncle was basically kind of like not paying his bills and taking money out of the company. So the company didn't do very well after that. But also, they used to work for the government and rebuild the police stations and the army
Hmm.
barracks after they were bombed by the IRA. So that was a whole nother angle to and dynamic to that business why it kind of failed. So um, when I was six, it's actually interesting because today's November 11th, Remembrance Day. When I was six, I actually got my life saved by a soldier in my family. We were in a shopping mall, and these soldiers came in and said, "Hey, there's a bomb in the store. Gotta go." So we left. They saved our lives, you know. Um, and that was kind of the turning point where my dad's like, "Hey, we need to get out of here." It's like we want a better life and for my family. So we moved to Canada. We moved to Calgary first, 1997, and then we moved down to Lower Mainland. It was a little too cold in Calgary, so we're used to the rain in Ireland. So moved down to Abbotsford, and we've been down here ever since. So uh, when I graduated in high school, it was 2008. So that was like kind of our last major recession. So
Hmm.
I was kind of pretty beat up in high school as far as just like lots of self-consciousness, just didn't have a lot going for me. So I picked up drinking pretty bad, and it was kind of a problem as an escape for me. So my dad had just started his crane business in 2008, and he had one crane. Didn't really want to hire me for his second crane just because, he didn't want me driving in my mindset and my problems down the highway, with the 60,000 pound missile, right? So, uh, ended up, actually, God interrupted my life and saved me, and I gave up drinking through that and cleaned up my life. And then my dad ended up buying a second crane. This is kind of 2010. So he bought a second crane and he ended up, and I've been kind of tinkering on the cranes. I knew how to run a crane. So back then you didn't need a certificate either. You could just jump on a crane. So
Yeah.
uh, he left for a week to build a log home out in somewhere up north in BC.
Hmm.
And he had all his local work to do. So he's like, "Simon, can you just take a week off?" I was like doing plumbing at the time. I was going to be a plumber, but I took that week off and did his crane work for him, and then I just never went back. I was like, I just kind of loved it. It was awesome. Back then we had two cranes, so like, and there's a recession, so busy in the summer, and then we just save up to get through the winter. and just be smart about our money and our spending. And through that, kind of picked up this trade and just loved it. It was just kind of what I was meant to be, and kind of gave me purpose. And yeah, so obviously me and my dad worked together. We hired another guy. My brother joined on, and yeah, we kind of built the business together, and then kind of started managing it once we started kind of having a bit of problems with, like, my dad's kind of old school, right? I was kind of noticing,
Mm.
hey, we need to change the culture. We're having trouble with turnover in operators. We think everybody should be at their generation and know what they're doing,
Yeah.
operator, and that's just not the
Yeah.
case, right? We're crushing our employees with high expectations. So I took over management and changed kind of the culture, and really solved a lot of the labor problems, and just kind of modernized and systemized the business. So that's kind of my rough background. And then, yeah, I got into the coaching kind of recently in the last 6 months. So,
Hmm.
Now, you mentioned you systematized your business, and I think that was a point Tyler and I were really excited to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Obviously, from our construction background, we have seen as carpenters from multiple construction companies that contractors don't really know how to systematize their business and operate it effectively and scale past themselves. So, can you walk me through that process and what was that aha moment of I need to systematize my business and then kind of scale it past yourself?
yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I systemized our crane business without even knowing what a system was. Like I just did it out of necessity. So I had one, just for an example, I had one really high maintenance crane operator that phoned us 10 times a day. He's like, I
Mm.
can't, can't set up the crane. What's going on? I can't find this. And it was just like a very painful experience for us. But through that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write these systems, not knowing that it was a system. I'm just going to write you how to set up the crane, how to operate it, where everything is, where to park in our yard, just, just to relieve myself of phone calls.
Yeah.
And just kind of the burden of employees. I wanted them to be more self-sufficient. So I started doing that. And then we had labor problems. We kind of saw them coming. So we started a crane school so that we could kind of cherry pick out of there to solve our labor issue, basically. But and just through that, like, we hired a dispatcher, so that was kind of our first full-time office staff. And then we realized, hey, we got nothing to teach you. Like, this is how we do it. It's all in our head. So unless we sit with you for 6 months and verbally, puke out all of our business, we're not gonna be able to train you. So we now had to be like, hey, this is how we answer the phones. This is what we expect. This is how we run our business. This is how to book in a job. This is how to read crane charts. And I started writing all these things down to train our dispatcher, which now systemized our office. Right. So a lot of them was just necessity. And then I figured out later on that these are systems and other people
Mm.
are doing them. And this is how bigger companies get big while other companies stay small, because, if I didn't do it, it would all be in my dad's head, and everybody would
Yeah.
have to go and nonstop phone my dad saying, hey, how do I book in a job? Hey, how do I quote this? And that's basically one of the problems I solve in my coaching business, to help out the other guys that just have that blind spot, right?
It's a good point that you bring up, and I know we spoke with Richard about it. We might have even spoken to some of our other guests about it, but how important it is to like write systems, and like for the ability to scale your business, you need to write systems, and you need to kind of like give the business beyond yourself. It's interesting you kind of reference your dad and how it was all in his head. And for you, you started writing systems and training people, and obviously starting a school. I'm wondering, was there like a course or a book, or like was there something that like made you think that that's what needs to be done, or did it just honestly kind of come natural to you? It just seemed like it made sense, or was there something that kind of like made you start to think like we need to solve these problems?
I thought I invented it, to be honest. I, I'm not a big book reader. I can see how that, like, obviously what really helps. yeah, just being a blue collar guy, that's it's something that I struggle with. I sitting down
Mm.
and reading, and then concentrating on that. But yeah, like I said, it kind of came naturally where it's like, hey, I'm having problems in my business. So how do I solve this? Um, you YouTube things, but if you don't know what you're YouTubing, like, you're not going to find it. So yeah, I started systemizing, and then after that, I kind of started to, once it was done, I was like, okay, these are called systems. And I have a friend, you guys should get him on the podcast, David Mormon, and he's a coach. So I'd see his uh, posts on systems and like, oh, that's not what I do in my business, and he's explaining what I didn't even know that I did. So he actually helped me a lot to verbally kind of like play it through in my mind. So and he's been coaching now for I think like 8 years, and he's in the home service business. A total absolute legend. He's unreal guy, super smart doing business, way ahead of
Hmm.
my league, anyways.
So you're mentioning you had this kind of mentor who taught you about the coaching business a little bit. Why did you decide to start coaching people? Because you figured out how to systematize your crane business. Now, a lot of people would just keep that a hidden secret. Again, we talked about in construction, a lot of people don't know how to
Yeah.
do that. And you could just dominate market share, buy up a bunch of small cranes. So why did you want to teach other people how to systematize their business and let them succeed as well instead of just dominating the marketplace?
Yeah, like you said, it helped our business so much that it's foreign to help your competitors, right? Even some of the, like my buddies in the crane business, are like, why are you telling everybody this? Like, we're gonna use it against you, right? So it is quite foreign, but to be honest, I never wanted to be a coach. If you told me a year ago that I was going to be a coach, I would have been, I don't even know what that's about. I don't know the industry. No desire. My plan was always to take over the family business once I started. Originally I was going to take it over with my brother, and we had always kind of built the business that way. But then the crane school took off, and that was like a full-time gig. So my brother runs that full time now. He owns it. So we kind of now it was my duty to take over the family business, the crane business, and that was my goal. But like not a year ago, maybe 8 months ago, like my life just started. Like I have a beautiful life, beautiful family. I live on an acreage here, and I had an awesome career. But I started to lose purpose in the crane business. It's funny because my business is called All Purpose Cranes, but I started losing the purpose, and I also like everything that was in my control started to fall apart, or not in my control, out of my control, started falling apart. Like basically
Right.
everything. We have a great fleet of cranes and trucks and different things like that. Everything I touched kind of broke down on me. It wasn't breaking down on anyone else. My truck, I have a Chevy Silverado, and they've always been bulletproof for me. I blew a transmission going up the Coquihalla, and just
Oh, shit.
like, oh my goodness, my life is like, and that stuff sucks when you break down the side of the road, and you got customers being like, oh crap, we need to get this done. There's that pressure. Plus, you're like, hey, we've always prided ourselves on having great equipment in our company, and for whatever reason, everything started breaking down on me. We started having, one of our awesome employees, his life kind of fell apart. Um, his personal life, and then that took a lot of a toll on us because we tried to help him out. We're a family business, so we took it personal to help him out. And then through that, he kind of picked up like depression and drinking, like a pretty bad drinking thing. So he ended up like basically on the streets, but we still tried to help him out until it got to the point where it was like, hey man, you're destroying our business. There's nothing we can do for you. You have to help yourself as well. It can't just be us wanting to help you. So we kind of had to let go of that, and that was pretty hard on us. So I went through this kind of hard stage where it was like, what is happening? And I'm a Christian guy, so for me, it's like when that is happening, things that are out of your control, like God is trying to get your attention. So I was kind of like, hey God, like what do you want from me? Uh, my life is falling apart. I have an amazing life. Why is my life falling apart? And there's no answer for a while, and nothing happened, and it just kept on getting worse and worse. until kind of this coaching thing came up, and it's cool because I felt like a call in from God to be like, hey, you have solved a lot of issues in your business. I want you to now go and help out other fathers in your industry and other business coaches or business owners in your industry to make sure that they are not living a life of like complete stress and not paying out their kids because they're not having that quality time and just not, running a healthy business that everyone, their employees, their, you know, everybody's getting affected by that, right? So that's when I started kind of like, okay, I'll try this coaching thing, and I end up getting a coach myself because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm a construction worker, so now I gotta take videos of myself and
Yeah.
try to uh, put myself out there, right? So that was super foreign to me. So my coach, I started with him 4 months ago, and where I'm at today, it would have taken me 2 years to get to where I'm at. And I probably would have quit if I'm honest.
Mm.
Within that 2 years, it just would have went so slow, and I would have just like the trial and error would have killed me. So yeah, that coach really helped me out and got me to where I need to be. And I feel so much purpose now when I get to help these guys and see. It's kind of like I have a couple young kids, they're 5 and 3, but like you have these moments as a father where you're like, oh, so overjoyed to see them like walk for the first time, or like you help them like catch a fish for the first time. You have this like these father moments where now I get to do that in my business and be like, you have these like, man, dude, you bought that new crane, like, you got that new employee, you systemize that business. Now it's like you hear all these wins, and it's just like, man, it's so fulfilling to me. So I just feel like I'm in God's will right now and where He
Mm.
wants me to be, and it's a really cool place to be in business. I'm really excited.
That's so interesting. I mean, a few things, a lot of threads to pull on that. First of all, thank you for just being like open and like vulnerable with your story and like how that's developed over the last, I mean, you said really just like a short while, like what, 8 months. So,
Yeah,
I mean, thank you for being open with us and sharing that. That's amazing. It's interesting because me and Colton talk a lot as well about how quickly things can change, and obviously you've experienced that a lot in such a short while. Like 8 months ago, what are we in November? So what, March?
yeah,
I don't even know where I was. I was framing apartments still. Colton was like a couple months into this a new job in a new industry. I was trying to find my way into a new industry, getting out of framing apartments. It just wasn't my passion. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And so me and Colton talk all the time about how quickly things can happen. Like 8 months ago, I was framing apartments, trying to figure out what I'm doing. Now I'm like 2 to 3 months into doing a podcast, have an amazing job in an amazing industry with an amazing company, and I'm feeling so fulfilled. So it's like, it's cool to hear your story, how quickly things have developed. I'm curious how your mindset has developed so quickly and how it's changed. Do you think that a big reason of that is because of your faith, or do you think it's the hardships that you kind of experienced over the last 8 months, or is there something maybe beyond that you could say to our audience that like developed your mindset that quickly to realize how things can change and develop?
yeah. That's a really good question. I think it's a bit of both. My
Mm.
faith, first of all. I'm only here because of God. So sometimes, like I said, hey God, I'll do my absolute best. But I have limited skill, right? Like I have limited editing skills. I've limited, Instagram skills, YouTube
Yeah.
skills. It's like I'm gonna do my best, which I know I'll get better every day. 1% better is kind of my goal every day. But God, you have to, you called me into this, so you didn't call me into this to fail and let people down. So you have to bring in the clients as well. And so it's really been a really cool experience uh, to put God first and to see God pull through. And he brought in that coach. So my coach Grayson Lucas, this awesome guy. He's 23 years old and like so much wisdom. Also a Christian guy. And his whole thing is like there's tons of coaches out there to choose from. The thing why I chose Grayson is because he's like, hey, listen, you know, um, there's going to be a lot of coaches out there that are like, hey, let's get your coaching to 10K, 20K in the first few months and all these guarantees and all that. Where he was basically like, hey, let's, if you make 20, 30, 40K a month, your bills are paid. How much money do you really need? And I make good money in the cranes. I don't, money's not the issue for me. But I wanted a business that I had peace in and fulfillment and purpose. And yeah, so he's taught me a ton um, through the just already, built a coaching business himself, right? So he's some of the mistakes I was, making already. So I had started a coaching business called Cyber Crane Training and Consulting. So he's like, scrap that week one. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? That's my coaching program. He's like, no, dude, like you are the coaching program, Simon Walker. So this is your personal brand. So I was kind of like, whoa, like you obviously know what you're talking about, so I'm gonna do what you say. But I struggled, so I had to change my Instagram name. He's like, yeah, you got a website, scrap it. Your Instagram's going to be like your website, and just kind of like your landing page of it's got everything. When people go onto your Instagram, they got everything they need to know about you. Um, and then just yeah, so and even like I was kind of tempted to be like, hey, uh, I'll start an agency, not coaching, because I was kind of like I didn't know where I was supposed to be, so I was like, am I coach, am I an agent? Agencies, like, dude, I came from an agency, I started my own agency, made lots of money. You're gonna hate it, coaching, you get to coach the guys and teach them how to fish, basically, not just give them a fish. Agency,
Right.
you do, you give them the fish, you charge them lots of money, but that even that relationship where it's like, hey, can you correct that system, or can you change this, or it's not, I don't really like that. And you have a totally different relationship with your, with your client. And it's like, honestly, I don't think you're gonna like it. So that saved me a lot of grief and misery, right? Like my main thing is I want a business that I enjoy, that I love, and setting that up. It's not just about money for me. So
Simon, I have to say, I really respect that it's not just about the money and that you find purpose in helping others. I think that's very hard to see in a lot of businesses nowadays through social media and everything. Everyone's like, make 50,
uh,
60K a month and you'll be happy, right? So just
yeah,
want to say, first off, I really appreciate the honesty and how this vision's bigger than yourself and not just monetary gain. That being said, through social media, what have you found to be the biggest struggle with your sales funnel and gaining coaching clients, right? Because construction guy, not many construction guys use social media. So for that to be your funnel
mhm.
for crane
Hmm.
operators, what's the struggle? What's the biggest struggle there?
Yeah, so you're right. And like I would say, I don't even know, I'm just throwing out rough numbers, but 60%, 70% of my future or even possible customers or clients are not even going to know me because they're not on Instagram. But there is that 30%, 40%. So it's like if I can't get them on board, I'm not going to be able to get to 70%. So I'm pretty confident. And I've even had guys like do like an Instagram burner account just to contact me to be like, hey, I saw your videos on YouTube. Like YouTube's hard to message you, right? You can comment, but you can't message. So I also do YouTube as well, just shorts mostly. But so Instagram's my main thing. But the main thing is shifting people's beliefs and your messaging. So uh, right now, like my Instagram isn't flashy. If you compare me to other coaches, I'm level one and they're level 10, 20. It's just like their marketing, their videos, their editing is so much better than mine, but I can speak the language and my content, my verbal content is quality where and that is getting better too as I learn messaging a bit more. But I have to change my audience's beliefs. There's a lot of crane companies out there that are like, you know what? I just text my guys. I don't need a dispatching app. I don't really need structure. I've, what did they do 50 years ago? They didn't have dispatching apps. I don't need technology and all that. So I need to actually have my messaging so that I can shift those operators or business owners' beliefs to be like, hey, there is a better way of doing business. You only know what you know. I've solved some of your problems, labor problems, paperless problems, systemizing problems. There is a better way. Follow some of my videos and you'll kind of get a hint of it, and then reach out and let's change that your business for the better.
That's interesting. A couple things. Again, you're dropping so many good nuggets here, Simon. It is interesting. Like all three of us are all fairly new to social media as well. Do you want to speak a little bit about the learning curve for you? Like obviously you're a blue collar guy. I mean, me and Colton were blue collar guys. Like we were scared of getting judged for so many years. I wanted to start a personal brand in a different industry than I was even in, and people get. And they're afraid to be judged, or you don't know where to start or how to start and like how to grow. Like how have you kind of navigated that, kind of just getting started, and then how quickly you've kind of learned what works? And as well, like I know you're doing some YouTube as well. I see you got some long content on there as well. Like it's super cool to see someone in the blue collar industry kind of like pioneering social media a little bit. I don't really know anybody around here, at least like in me and Colton's old circles in the industry, that does that. So how have you kind of navigated that learning curve and like scaling it up and just figuring it out?
Yeah, I would say that is, thanks to my coach. So my coach,
Mm.
his whole thing is a social funnel. So it's basically, uh, you know, like the blue collar terms is all about word of mouth. With Instagram, it's about organic. But word of mouth and organic is a lottery, right? You can't really tell how much work you're going to bring in that month based on word of mouth or referrals uh, or organic, right? So to be consistent, the social funnel, we run ads because we know, hey, we're reaching this many people. And we keep track of the numbers. The numbers never lie. So on some of my ads, I keep track of how many followers did I get from that ad? How many DMs did I get from that ad? How many clients did I get from that ad, or sales calls and clients, right? So we're keeping track of all those numbers. I'm getting better because I then, have that ad running, and then I put another ad against it with the same kind of money, obviously, delegated to it. So it's an even playing field. If the numbers aren't better on that ad, then I drop it, do another piece of content. And then if that's a better content, then I drop the original ad that's now worse. So, so he's taught me a lot about the social funnel. You got to aim high. Like my clients are Crane business owners, but that's the top of my funnel. Basically, I get a lot of crane operators that maybe 5 years down the road might start their own business, right? So, and then I get a bunch of people that are in trucking
Mm.
industries, and so you got to aim and speak only to your target audience, but you'll get kind of the rest of them, which may or may not turn into clients. So, if you target anyone lower, like crane operators, you'll never get the business owners because you're not speaking the language, right? So it's speaking the language. YouTube, there's also big money on YouTube. So they say there's a lot more money on YouTube than Instagram. So like you see these YouTube kind of influencers or whatever, and then they have these kind of like sponsor me kind of things. Like thanks to all my sponsors, some of those guys
Mhm.
like are getting sponsored thousands and thousands of dollars by random people, right?
Yeah.
Instagram's more of like, hey, look at my pictures. I
Mhm.
look better than I am, kind of vibe, right? So I'm actually surprised how many people, uh, even crane guys, are on Instagram. It's even more surprising how many guys are on TikTok. I don't get it. I don't get it. But hey, if you get some clients, work is work.
Simon, my old crane operator used to sit on TikTok. You could hear him on the radio watching TikTok when he's in between lifts.
It's a big no-no. Yeah, no phones on the cranes, especially if you're an operator. If you're a business owner, it's a gray area. We'll let you go,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
as an operator, you gotta be hands-on. I had an employee that he's like, oh, I listen to headphones. I'm like, you take those headphones out right now. It's like if you
Yeah.
can't hear someone else stop or some kind of noise or squeak, or man, you're putting everybody at risk. So like get those headphones right out. So
See,
Yeah.
we didn't use headphones. We blasted our music as loud as possible where we couldn't even hear the guys in the other room. That's what we did.
yeah,
So a little
yeah,
safer. We could hear if something
yeah,
was going to drop on us, but still very unaware.
yeah.
Um, so I want
Framers
to
are tight.
take,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Country music, just no shirts on. It's
Yeah.
no.
good times.
Um, I want to take it back. So obviously, you're walking us through how you were running two different ads. Whichever one does better, you take the other one down. I love how I would say throwing spaghetti at the wall, but it's a little more strategic than that. You also mentioned that you're going after 30 to 40% of the marketplace right now because that's what's on Instagram and YouTube. Is there a goal in the future with content or in business in general to go after that 70%? Or are you just wanting to dominate that 30 to 40% where no one else is competing? What's the longer term vision here?
Yeah. So eventually I will be on all platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, um, TikTok more, and all these guys to broaden my base. But it's one of those things where if you don't do one well, you're just stretching yourself thin at the beginning, with all this content and then people messaging you and you're missing messages, and it's just too stretched thin. So my main goal is to start on Instagram. I know a lot of people start on Facebook, but with the Facebook ads right now, I don't think Facebook ads are the way to go. Just even for your own personal business, they just don't do nearly as well as the Instagram ads, boosting, those ads. So I didn't start on Facebook, which I would know like a lot more crane operators have a Facebook page for their crane business, but not on Instagram. So, but I'm also targeting younger guys too, right? I'm not targeting 65-year-old owners that have done it the hard way and are completely miserable. And, those guys think I'm a scam, and you get those comments, oh, this guy, I'm literally trying to help business owners, but they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking. I've done it without a dispatching app. Why would you pay money to this guy? So but those guys are great for business because everybody knows an old grumpy miserable crane operator. So it's like, hey, if you want to end up like him, do what he says. But if you want to enjoy life and enjoy your business and have longevity, and I'll teach you how to do it.
How did you know to target the younger demographic? Obviously, all of us here know older crane operators, older construction workers. It's their way or the highway, right? They're so ingrained in their ways. How did you know? Was it just naturally because the younger demographic is naturally going to be on social media more, or yeah, how did you kind of come to that determination that it makes sense to target, like particularly a younger demographic, and for that matter, those could be longer standing clients for a longer period of time?
Yeah, I think it's just being in the industry, like just know so many closed-minded small business owners. Like, why would I want to work with you? It's like pulling teeth. It's like I want to enjoy, like I get to work, in my opinion, with the cream of the crop of the crane industry. Young guys that are like, hey, we're going to use AI to help our crane business. I don't want to be last on social media, being like, oh, finally, okay, you know, you can get business through social media with your crane company. It's like, I want to be at the forefront of that. So yeah, there's lots of types in the crane industry, and quality attracts quality too, right? So a lot of those older guys are kind of, yeah, that guy, I'll teach him, about business, and they're completely, haven't paid off their trucks yet, and they're just, um, just kind of miserable. So it's like I want to enjoy them, so I get to work with guys. Like I do work with guys, like I don't know what you call old these days, but like some guys in their 40s, and that would be like I think the oldest client that I have.
Interesting.
But
Wow.
they're still like they say, hey, you're onto something here. I want that in my business. I don't know how to systemize my business. Um, I want to improve it. So I see what you have and I know that's going to get results in my business. So let's work together. Or it's like, hey, I have Google calendars for my, and that's how I run my crane business. And, like just even speaking the language is like, hey, that's for, booking in a dentist appointment, not running a business, right? So like you kind of have to hit them where they kind of go, yeah, I need to improve my systems and the structure of my business, right? So
Mhm. Really appreciate how you're targeting the younger generation, especially in trades. I mean, even our boss, Jay, he's trying to funnel in the next younger generation to help build their careers up, obviously their interests. You mentioned you had a training business as well that your brother takes over. How many young guys do you find are coming into that percentage wise? Because Tyler and I have found that the turnover rate for young guys is high in construction, and the industry is dominated by older guys, sorry, mid
yeah.
40s, 50s, and 60s. So are you finding a lot of new, young, and motivated operators coming into the business, or what's that looking like?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. So, what happens a lot is like WCB gets guys from like framers that have been injured, and then they are like, well, cranes is less physical, so let's get them into like we'll pay for the crane school, which will get them back to work. So those guys can be older, but for the most part, it's a lot of younger guys. It gets harder to switch careers older, right? So I would say a lot of the guys getting into the crane business are younger.
Okay, well, that's great to hear, Simon. Obviously, me and Colton were doing construction before, and it was quite heavily dominated by older people. So that's good to hear that there's some young guys getting involved in your business, in your industry. So I want to take it back a little bit. This is a little bit, something you brought up before, but I think it's extremely important for people to consider, and that is how important it is to find a good coach. Because you mentioned your coach Grayson, you guys are working extremely well together. It's been super valuable for your business in scaling. And I think it's super important for people to find good mentors in their industry and for their business and just for their life. How could you advise somebody who's listening to this, I suppose, to go find a good coach? How do you know what a good coach looks like? Is it just kind of like figuring somebody out and just testing somebody and building a relationship and seeing if it makes sense? Or is there something tangible that you found that was able to kind of lead you to Grayson?
Yeah, that's another really good question. I think the thing that you gotta be careful for is the guarantees. If your coach is guaranteeing you 10,000, 20,000 crazy results, or not even sometimes crazy results, guarantees are that's kind of a red flag because as a coach myself, I can't guarantee my clients anything. It's like, are they going to put the work in and do what I say? Because they are probably not going to get the results if they don't. So how am I supposed to guarantee that you're now going to hire younger operators because you now have a dispatching system and more structure to your business? So stay away from guarantees, especially the more extravagant and appetizing that they are, the more kind of scammy they are. There's even in my business, the coaching business, there's like everyone's got a BS meter where it's like you have to get past that, which can be tough. Some people just like, oh, that guy's full of it. Like I don't buy one word that he says. So um, yeah, it's basically what you want, like your vision. If you want to be a workaholic and make a ton of money as fast as you can, and that's what you want to do, so that maybe in 5 years you can kind of retire or something crazy. Go ahead, get somebody that has that vision that is also doing that. So make sure that the coach has already done what they're promising as
Hmm.
well, so that they're qualified, that they're not just kind of making up different promises. Another one is like, are they a coach that is going to implement it in your business? So like for me, it's like I already have systems that I can pass on to you that work for my business. You can change them to tailor your cranes, your employees, your dispatching. So we're actually implementing something into your business. Other coaches are like all about ideas. You can get ideas off YouTube and AI and all that, right? You know, um, you just kind of, there's a lot of ideas and just kind of, hey, you should try this. It's like, well, have you? Yeah, it's a very tricky question. I think just discernment, wisdom, and just time will always tell, right? Like you do see some of these guys in sales, coaching and stuff, and they're like total scam, and it's it doesn't work. So obviously check their like not Google reviews, but like their different past clients. Are they being like,
Right.
hey, I want my money back, and like this guy scammed me. So do some research, I think, and just kind of be careful.
That's a great point, and I think that's extremely valuable to our audience. I know when Tyler and I were kind of looking at mentors and wound up with our current boss, we've asked other guys in our industry that we're networking with that could vouch for his credibility as a good person. I think that's super important, even whether it's coaches or actual mentors, digging deeper than just the person themselves and seeing what their reputation is behind the scenes, kind of pulling up that curtain. You've talked about your coaching business. You've talked about the training as well as you're operating your own business. What is the end goal here? Obviously, you're helping people get into the industry. You're helping others systematize their business. What is one thing on that vision board that you want to accomplish in your career now?
I think the big thing for me is like I know I can change the industry and set a new standard. A lot of the guys that I talk about in the crane industry now focuses on liability and all these paper kind of documents, and it's all just covering everybody just in case an accident happens. But they are not properly training the operator that's doing that task. So especially in small businesses, like union is a little bit different, where some of these union guys, they have so much money to burn that that guy can be trained and set up that crane and do different attachments and stuff like that before they even get to operate the crane. So like those guys are like overtrained. But for smaller businesses, to pay two guys, one supervisor and one trainee for a job, you can't do that for 6 months. You have to lose your shirt. So there's a pressure on getting these guys out into the field as fast as possible. A big complaint in our industry is the guys that are coming out of the crane schools are not prepared at all for actual work in the field, which is like, I get it from both angles because we have a crane school. It's like, well, what do you expect? They're on there for a week or two on the crane. They're in there for, a week of schooling, like learning the charts, like, and they've never put a load into somebody's hands. That alone is intimidating. Doesn't matter if you pass this, like it takes like 15 minutes, you get to pass the test of like putting a weight on cones and stuff. Like that's not real life. So part of it is like, what do you expect? These guys will only be doing it for 3 weeks. And then another part is like, well, what about your training program? How are you getting the best out of these operators? And I think that's a major part that we changed in our business that I now teach is like we systemize our training. So like for every crane that we have, they know how to, there's a document that shows them with pictures, because obviously telling a guy that's overwhelmed, doesn't know the crane very well, just a bunch of list of instructions, they're not going to imagine what you're talking about, and there's going to be a lot of miscommunications there. So for every one of our cranes, they're taught how all the steps of setting it up, operating it, all the different tricks, with all the different wisdom too of like our knowledge that we have, got over 2-3 generations of operating cranes, right? So all those really good tips that I wish I knew when I started, I put those in, and then so now those guys, can review those documents, the day before, the morning, sitting there warming up the trucks, and then they can go into that job knowing what's expected of them. Because previously, basically in the crane industry, you are put on the crane. There's only one way to learn, and that's physically doing it. And then you have the supervisor, this kind of manager, barking in your ear saying, "Hey, cable down. Oh, watch for that. Oh, I've already told you that." And you're kind of like, you're only retaining 15% of it, right? So what do we expect? These young guys or these green guys, they stay green for way longer. And then what happens is your customers get stressed out. It's like, this guy does not know what he's talking about. He doesn't know how to put a jib on. He's sitting there phoning the owner, being like, "Hey, I'm stuck. How do I, switch over the computer again, or which pin do I have to put in?" And if they, guess it themselves, they could completely damage the crane or kill somebody, right? So it's all high stakes stuff. And
Yeah.
so I'm kind of young enough to know and remember of my first year in operating and how tough and miserable that was on me. And the pressures there, it's still fresh enough in my memory to be like, hey, you know what? There's a better way of training these guys. So that's why we do like different trainings for how to operate a pallet fork and how to install a man basket, a jib. So those are all just steps that they can walk through. If they do get stuck, instead of phoning me, they can just look at the document. It's on a dispatching app at any time on the phone and figure it out themselves. Then the customer's not sitting there waiting. No one gets hurt. No one gets damaged. I get less phone calls. So it's a win-win-win. And
Yeah.
I think that's my long-term vision is to implement that into better training into the crane industry to help out, obviously the business owner, build the confidence of that operator, and then let's stop losing customers over this, right?
Interesting. Wow. I mean, that's a great long-term goal. You're obviously a great guy, Simon, and it's coming from the right place. You want a safer industry. You've been in it what sounds like the majority of your life. Obviously, your family's been in the industry for a long time. So that's cool to hear your long-term vision. It's not so black and white like, I want to be a millionaire. You want to like improve an industry where people that you love and know work in, and you want to make it safer and efficient. And obviously through efficiency and those systems, it will become safer. So that's great to hear. It's a great long-term goal. We'll probably wrap it up there. Really appreciate you getting on today, Simon. It was great to wrap with you. It's cool to talk to, another blue collar guy. Me and Colton are familiar with the industry. So it was good to hear your story today, and it was really insightful.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys having on. Anytime you get to speak with young, talented guys, it's always a pleasure. So it's like I said before, it's going to be awesome to see you guys take off in your podcast and see where you guys go and all the money and vacations you get to go on. But yeah, like I said,
Likewise.
we're solving problems, so we will make money as a consequence of doing that, right? So it's money is obviously important in business, but also solving the problems for the industry or our clients. So I'm excited to see you guys, and I'll be following closely.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Simon.